Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Beyond the Sideline podcast, a podcast where we talk about the latest sports topics and give our opinions as fans watching from Beyond the Sideline. Before we start today's episode, I would like to announce that we are now officially on Apple Podcasts. I know a lot of people have been asking for that ever since I started this podcast about a year and a half ago. We're finally up there, so for all you audio listeners who prefer Apple, you can now find us on Apple Podcasts, and I'll make sure to put that down in the link in the description if you're watching on YouTube. For all the YouTube and Spotify listeners, we appreciate you as well. But now, if you would like, you can switch over to Apple if that's your preferred platform. All right.
Huge development.
Yeah, very huge. Let's get into the first topic. I wanted to just quickly touch on March Madness since the last episode we did was the day of the championship game, Houston versus Florida. Um, I think if I remember correctly in that episode, I said that the game would start out with Houston in the lead and Florida would make their traditional comeback. And that's exactly what happened. Houston's defense
Yeah.
came out strong, but Florida's offense came back even stronger, led by Walter Clayton Jr. That kid is a stud. Definitely going to be a highly touted prospect when he enters his name into the NBA draft. But Jake, what were your thoughts on the final? I know it's been some time now, but from what you remember of it, what are your thoughts on that final game?
I mean, what a treat. I mean, the three Final Four games that we got, effectively, the last three games are all just absolutely incredible. And I think I saw some incredible stat where the team leading in the final TV timeout, in that 4-minute timeout, lost all three of the final games in March Madness, which is just absolutely ridiculous. But really impressed with how Florida was able to continue this comeback. Houston, not an easy team to come back
Yeah.
against. I mean, the best defense in college basketball, and you saw it out there. Ugly game. Both teams shot less than 25% from beyond the arc. It was 6 of 24 for Florida, 6 of 25 for Houston. So really brutal, but Florida was able to get the line a lot, especially in that second half. I think there were only 2 or 3 Houston fouls in the first half, and there were like 17 in the second half, something crazy like that. And you mentioned him. I mean, give a lot of credit to Walter Clayton Jr. because he had, I think, genuinely his worst half of the year in the first half of this game.
Yeah.
Houston did a great job doubling him, making him really uncomfortable. He had 1 point. He had one free throw make at the very end of the first half, and that was it. Went into the half with just 1 point. Ends up putting up 10 in the second, and he had the block attempt that at the very end of the game that spoiled things for Houston when they couldn't even get up a shot with 3 seconds left to go, and even attempt the buzzer beater. He made that defensive play. So definitely got to give him a lot of credit. But it was some of the other guys that stepped up from Florida as well. I mean, Conn looked great. Will Richard, obviously, with his 18 points was fantastic, and Thomas Haw is going to be, I think, a stud next year. Kind of just did it all around. So just a really impressive game. Got to give credit to Houston too. It was a classic Houston game of just
Yeah.
like nitty gritty defense and a lot of different guys getting the ball, getting buckets, but it wasn't enough in the end.
Yeah, and I mean that it's a really kind of disappointing way to end the season if you're Houston. I mean, you mentioned
Yeah,
Walter Clayton Jr. putting up that heavily contest up against Houston, and I mean I forget who it was trying to attempt the shot, but the Houston guy went up for it, was getting contested. He put the ball down. He can't pick it back up, or else it's a double dribble. So at
yep,
that point, Florida just dove on top of the ball, and that was it. I mean, Houston had a really good look. It's
yeah,
just Florida was there to contest it.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, and you couldn't ask for a better, like couple seconds left in the game. You have the ball down by two. And there just wasn't really enough time to try and penetrate into the key, into the paint. And you just needed that one more extra pass as you go up to shoot it, and you see Walter Clayton defending you. Instead of just coming right back down, you got to just try and just throw it up to someone else. but just an awesome, crazy ending that you didn't really see that much. I haven't really seen an ending like that. But it was just what a spectacular game.
Yeah. It was a great way to end off the NCAA basketball season, but sticking on the topic of basketball, let's move over to pro, as there's been a lot of headlines within the last week of the season and coming into the play-in tournament. First thing I want to talk about is the firing of former Nuggets head coach Mike Malone. Just won a championship with the Nuggets, their first in franchise history, back in 2022 against the Miami Heat. He's fired along with their GM. Jake, you were the first one to tell me about this. I had literally just woken up, and like 5 minutes later, I get a text saying Mike Malone was fired. Waking up to a text like that, I don't know how to respond. I can't. My brain is waking up. I can't think. I mean, it was crazy.
I mean, I was shocked. I mean, as a, I call myself a casual NBA fan.
Yeah,
I saw that news, and even I was like, this is not normal. This is just not normal at all. That's why I reached out to you, Angel, of course. But no, I mean, to me, it doesn't make any sense. I know reports are coming out that the locker room was awful and toxic, and they needed to clean house. But even if it was awful, I still don't understand why, in God's name, you would fire your coach right before if the locker room's awful, then as soon as you lose the playoffs, then you fire the coach and the
yeah,
GM and you
exactly.
clean house and you prep for a brand new offseason. But it feels like they're completely giving up. Like, I don't see how a brand new coach who's gotten 2 games under his belt to end the regular season and now has to scheme for a 7-game playoff series. I don't understand how that gives you a better chance than a much better coach with a toxic locker room. I don't understand that at all.
Yeah, I mean, like you said, it was a toxic locker room, and I also heard that the GM, believe his last name was Booth. I forget his first name, but Booth and Malone were both butting heads. Booth wanted Mike Malone to run the team one way. Mike Malone didn't like that advice and wanted to run the team his way. So, and there was growing frustration with the ownership and the president of basketball operations. The whole entire front office just did not like the relationship that Mike Malone and Booth had. So they just fired both of them. I think you should have maybe if you're gonna fire someone, maybe fire the GM, let Mike Malone write it out, or just let them both write it out and, like you said, clean house at the end of the season. I don't see
Yeah,
why you fire them days before the playoffs.
yeah, exactly. I think there's literally no advantage to doing it now as opposed to if you lose in the first round, literally a week and a half from now. Like, I can't imagine that the extra week and a half is giving you that much of a leg up on your future GM head coaching search. Like, it doesn't make any sense. And I mean, if it's already a toxic locker room, even if the head coach gets fired, how do the players feel? I mean, to me, it feels like they've been given up on for this season. It feels like, all right, and this is a 50-win team. It's a 50-win, 4-seed team in an incredibly competitive Western Conference with literally the best player in the world on your team. So it's like you shouldn't be giving up on this team at all, regardless of the circumstances. To do it days before the playoffs, it feels like it puts them at such a disadvantage. And like, that's one where, like, I think that swings I think that swings the series with all the news now swirling over that team. Like, how do you pick them to win a playoff round now? Which before that, I could have absolutely seen them at least winning a round or two.
Yeah, and I mean the Nuggets did end the season on a high note. They beat Grizzlies team. The Nuggets had not led that game until like the first 2 minutes, I think it was. They were up 8-6. Was the only time they led that game against the Grizzlies, and in the last 4 minutes, they ended up coming back. And I watched the end of that game because obviously the Western Conference standings were still in limbo. So that was a really big game for both teams. And then they went out and beat a Rockets team who were playing their starters. Wanted to just upset everyone and just play petty. I mean, that's the Rockets. That's how Ime Udoka runs that team, especially with Dylan Brooks. Um, but now I mean, the Nuggets, although they are a 50-win team, they just haven't looked the same as they had in the last couple of years. It just seems like they've been struggling in games that they should. And now you're going into your first playoff series in the first round with an interim head coach who has 2 games of experience, in which the 2 games, I'm not going to dock him. They've been great games. He's coached them well. But you're going into a playoff series with only 2 games under your belt, and you're going up against a Clippers team who has been red hot in, I'd say, the last 3 to 4 weeks of the season. You're going up
Mhm.
against a healthy Kawhi Leonard, a healthy James Harden, Norman Powell, who is ineligible for most improved player, but we all know he's the most improved player in this season. A storied head coach in Tyronn Lue. I mean, it's gonna be such a hard battle for them, especially with an head coach. I get you have home court advantage, but I honestly, I can see the Clippers win the series.
Oh yeah, I think I would be picking the Clippers to win this series. I really do. I think they are the hottest team in basketball, like you said, Angel. I mean, 8 in a row, 9 out of the last 10, and you know, it, James Harden has been so good of late that Kawhi's been able to kind of just do his thing as like a secondary piece, which hasn't happened too much since he got to Los Angeles. So I think that's a really scary team in the West. That watch down low. I mean, just they can get at you a lot of different ways, and really good defense at times. Like their ceiling defensively might be the highest out of anyone in the West as well. So I would not be wanting to play them right now for sure.
Yeah, and I mean, to go back on the firing of coaches, one that happened just a few days ago, I believe on Monday it happened. The Suns fired head coach Mike Budenholzer after only 2 seasons, which was a long time coming. Even though it's been a short-lived tenure for Mike Budenholzer, that team is just very dysfunctional. Have what, $600 million, $500 million in payroll across 3 players, and they're not performing
Mhm.
well as a team. I mean, I get that firing.
Yeah,
I
I
think
mean,
that one should have happened sooner.
yeah, it's hard to believe. I think there's 29 teams in the NBA that are either in the playoffs, in the play-in, or are going to have a lottery pick. And then there's the Phoenix Suns
Yeah.
who aren't any of those things. They're set up so incredibly poorly now. Not just for the near future, like far into the future. They have really just tanked that franchise. And I almost I don't know what you can even hope for with a new head coach. Like clearly the like if you were gonna win, it was gonna be this year because although their big three are only gonna get older, Devin Booker's still obviously awesome, but I mean Katie's certainly up there now. Bradley Beal might win least valuable player if that was an award. I mean, boy, he's been rough this year. And like this would be theoretically the team at the peak of their powers. And they, disappointed more so than I think probably fair to say that the biggest disappointment in the NBA this year. Just
Yeah.
36 wins is like pretty incredible as a team that was like a shoe in for the playoffs. With that big three, you'd think, oh my god. And it's not that they were like unhealthy either. It's just like they just weren't good together. It just did not work. So I think yeah, you had to clean house a little bit, but now I think it's going to be Devin Booker's fourth head coach in the last 4 years coming into next year. He's just I mean, said talking about setting up a guy for failure, just really unfortunate. As a secondary Phoenix Suns fan, being from Arizona, I really, you know, I would love them to do well. And it was so exciting when they were in the finals a couple of years ago against the Bucks, and I went to sports bars and was cheering them on in Scottsdale. People going crazy, but it feels so incredibly far removed from that now, which is just such a bummer. I
Yeah.
don't know where you go from here.
No, yeah, I don't know either. And I mean, just looking at the the list of coaches, it looks like, if I'm counting right, one, two, three. 5, 6. They've had 6 different head coaches in the span of roughly 8 seasons, 9 seasons, with Monty Williams being the longest tenured. He won Coach of the Year in the 2021-22 season. That next season, he got fired. But yeah, I mean, they're just, going through every single coach like they're going out of style at this point. You mentioned
Yeah.
Devin Booker is, it seems like he's getting a new head coach every other year at this point. I
Yep.
mean, how can you develop as an all-star level player and break that boundary to be, a star like LeBron, Curry, Kevin Durant when you have a new head coach every year? It's a different play style. It's a different coaching style.
Yep.
How can you do good in a league like that?
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think it's you have to constantly learn a new offense and a new style of play and new teammates around you. I mean, he's seen so much roster turnover now. I mean, he's still just 28 years old, but he's obviously been there a while now. And it's so difficult. Right? Yeah, his rookie year, 2015 already. That's crazy how long he's been a 10-year vet already. But just I don't know how he can get to the next level with that. And he's already like an all-star and such an incredible player and good for just bucket whenever you need it. But I don't know how you take that next step and become a top 5 player in a league as opposed to a top, just an all-star. You have to have some consistency, whether it's just guys you are comfortable playing with or like the actual style of play. So I think he's just been set up for failure year in, year out, and it's very upsetting.
Yeah, and one last thing to note, Mike Budenholzer, since he got fired in, I guess it was the first year of his contract. I thought it was the second year. That shows you how much I've been following the Phoenix Suns. Um, he will be getting paid $10 million a year from the Phoenix Suns until 2029, and it is the same with the Milwaukee Bucks. He's getting paid roughly the same amount of time.
Wow. I mean, to be a fired coach, that's the best job in the world or what?
Yeah.
Any sport. Just
Yeah.
get the bag, get fired immediately. Boy, you get paid to do nothing.
Yeah,
Wow.
getting paid $20 million a year for the next 4 years to sit on your couch.
Wow. To not coach for an NBA team. So, oh boy. Yeah, that says just about everything you need to say.
Yeah. We mentioned the playoffs a little bit. Playoffs have technically started with the play-in tournament. First games were last night. As we are recording this, it is Wednesday, April 16th. So the first 2 play-in games happened last night. As I mentioned, the 7th seed Magic beat the number 8 Atlanta Hawks, so they will be playing the Boston Celtics in the first round. And for the first time in play-in tournament history, the Warriors got a play-in win against the Grizzlies, who they lost to a couple years ago in the play-in. The Warriors were the 7th seed. They won the 7th, 8th seed game, so they will be going up against the number 2 Houston Rockets on Sunday. That's going to be a really good matchup
Yeah.
because the Warriors are 4-0 in playoff series since they've had Stephen Curry on their team.
Wow. Against the Rockets? Wow, they got their number. That's interesting.
Yeah.
I think that game for the Warriors effectively extended their season because if you lose and regardless, even if you win the then 8-9 game, going to OKC it feels like a completely different beast now. They're being able to go to, although the Rockets have had an incredible year, with young teams like that, you have to wait and say, all right, well, can they do it in the playoffs? It's very different. They're going to be outcoached, most likely, and it's just a very different beast. So I think you feel so much better if you're a Warrior fan. My goodness. But I don't know. I don't know if this is a hot thing. I'm not a fan of the play-in most of the time. I feel like, especially this year in the West, it just shows like, the Warriors have 48 wins, Grizzlies have 48 wins, Kings have 40, Mavericks have 39. The Grizzlies are going to beat whoever wins the Kings Mavericks game. Like I don't think there's a question about it. And in the whole history of the play-in, no 10 seed has ever actually made it to the playoffs, and every single 7 seed has always made it. There's been a couple of 9 seeds to be 8 seeds, but I saw someone suggest the other day maybe the play-in only gets triggered if you're within like 3 to 5 games of the teams ahead of you, which I think would be a better system because now it feels, I don't know, it just feels completely unnecessary to me. Maybe, in the East, it's a little more interesting, the actual play-in games themselves, because those teams are all clumped together. But then, like, you just know whoever wins, whoever's the 7 and 8 seed, like, do they have a shot against the Cavs or the Celtics? You don't feel great about that. So I'm kind of anti play-in, primarily because then, like, the NBA playoffs is so long as it is. Did you need to extend? I mean, like, with 4 7-game series, and everyone has to be spaced out by at least a day, 2 days in between each game. It's a months-long process. I don't think you needed to make it any longer. That's just my NBA hot take.
Oh yeah, and I mean, you're not the only one with that opinion. I was actually talking to Carlo last night. Carlo, for those one, someone who does photo video for KCSB Sports. Um, and he doesn't like the play-in either. And he said pretty much the exact same thing you said.
Yeah.
That, the possibility of a 9-10 seed getting into the playoffs over someone who, like 4 years ago, would have automatically gotten in because there was no play-in, is just, kind of, it's kind of hurtful to those 7th, 8th seeds who should be getting in.
Yeah.
And he described it kind of like as a March Madness tournament. Like, it seems like if the NBA wants to have a Cinderella story, it just hasn't been working out. And I agree with you, and I think I told this to Carlo, if, a team are within maybe 2.5 to 3 games of that 7th seed or the 6th seed, let them play in the play-in, because they, if they had won a couple more games, they would have been in. But for a team like the Mavericks and the Kings, or like 8 games behind the 6th seed, I don't see why they should be playing.
Yep. I will say the one thing that I like about it is that the top teams in the conference work to get a 6 seed or above. Like you saw it in the Western Conference this year, obviously. Like the tension, like it wouldn't have felt the same at all. Obviously, the Western Conference regular season would have been over like 3 weeks ago, if not for the plan. So I do like that you really are fighting hard to eke out as many regular season wins as you can to get a 6 seed or above. But I think the fight for a higher seed is so much more entertaining at the end of the regular season as opposed to the actual play-in games themselves. So it doesn't feel worth it to me.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you on that front. I mean, look at the Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference's standings were set like 2 to 2.5 weeks ago, and the West wasn't set until the final game of the season.
Yeah.
So it literally went down to the last possession to see who was going to play who, when, and where.
Yeah.
Which is really that part of it is fun, but yeah, the play-in itself isn't all that. I mean, we're gonna have today. It's the Heat, and the Mavericks will host the Sacramento Kings. The Bulls and Heat is gonna be interesting to watch. Kings versus Mavs, I could care less, but I saw a post a few weeks ago that it's at this point the play-in tournament is just the annual Hawks versus Bulls bid-off, because they always seem to find a way to play against each other in the play-in.
Yeah, it feels every single year. But then again, it's like, all right, well, it's just who wants to have to be able to get to be swept or lose in 5 games in the next series? Like that's the prize. So it's like it's so anticlimactic.
Yeah. Yeah, and the reason why Adam Silver, the commissioner of the NBA, did the play-in tournament is to boost numbers and create more revenue, because he knows that he's competing with the Stanley Cup playoffs. And from the outside looking in, to people who don't watch hockey, may seem like, oh, it's the NBA. It's going to generate way more revenue than hockey. We have LeBron, we have Stephen Curry, Anthony Edwards, Kevin Durant. But the NHL is making millions of dollars more, possibly even a few billion more, than the NBA does. NHL brings in way more revenue, way more viewership, and the Stanley Cup playoffs are like, seems like a boxing match half of the time with how intense it gets.
Yeah, no, I am one. I fall into that like crew. Like I think if I'm gonna turn on a playoff, like if I'm sitting on the couch one afternoon or in June or whatever, and I want to turn on a playoff game, and it's either a hockey game or a basketball game, odds are I'm probably gonna turn on the playoff hockey game because it's just it feels more intense. It feels more intense. It feels fun. Obviously, it depends on storylines and this and that. But there's something about playoff hockey that just has a completely different feel than any other sport.
Yeah, and I mean, especially last year when NBA finals happened. I mean, the NBA playoffs up until the finals was pretty interesting to watch, especially if you were
Yeah.
following the Timberwolves. Because Anthony Edwards was on a tear, going through every team like if he was on a revenge tour. And then you get to the Mavs, and I really wanted the Timberwolves to win that series because I knew they were going to have to play the Celtics. And that would have been a really fun series to watch. But then the Mavericks ended up winning, and so I'm sitting there like, well, this is lopsided. We all know who's going to win. The Mavericks have no chance against Jason Tatum and the Boston Celtics. So I don't think I watched a full finals game. I think I watched
Yeah.
maybe one, but I mean, it was just a really boring finals last year, and I'm not that big of a hockey fan, but I found myself wanting to watch the Stanley Cup more than
Yeah.
the NBA finals.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. I'm right. I'm right there with you. I'm right there with you. I think hopefully this year we should have some more exciting storylines, kind of no matter how it shakes out. But we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, especially now with the Lakers and Luca to see how they're going to
Yeah.
do. They're going up against Anthony Edwards and the Timberwolves. Are the Rockets legit? Can the Thunder make a run this year? Are the Celtics going to repeat? Are the Cavs going to stop them? Pistons versus Knicks. That's going to be a fun series. Like, there's a lot of fun
Oh yeah,
series
definitely.
going
Especially
into
in
the
this
first
first
round.
round.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's definitely going to be fun to watch. But we shall see plays who, when, and where by tonight. The playoffs start officially on Saturday, I believe.
Mhm.
I will be watching. My Lakers play the Timberwolves that day, so I will be watching as much as I can. I think there's a baseball game that UCSB is having. They're playing Cal Poly, but that's in the afternoon. But there's a lot of sports going on this week. We're gonna get to college baseball soon, but let's stick with pro and go to the MLB. MLB season is starting to ramp up a little bit as we are now closing in on about a month of play, and there's a lot of storylines have been happening. One I want to talk about is the struggling Dodgers. The Dodgers, although they have a lot of wins. Their record-wise, they are still one of the best teams in the league, but they have lost three straight series, not including they're playing against the Phillies, Nationals, and the Cubs, in that order. They gave up 8 runs against the Nationals in one of the games they played against them, and they lost 16-0 to one of the games they played against the Chicago Cubs. They currently sit at third in the NL West, a few games behind the Padres. Giants are right above them. I believe they're about a game and a half ahead of them. Padres just lost against the Cubs, though, so that helps the Dodgers' chances. But I mean, Jake, when you put $2 billion into an MLB franchise for payrolls alone, and you're struggling against a team like the Nationals, I mean, does that kind of hurt your self-esteem, or do you just brush it off and you're like, oh, we're the Dodgers, we're gonna do good?
I mean, baseball is such a funny sport, right? Because it is like no matter how good of a team you are on paper, and even by the end of the year, no matter how good of a team you are, there's going to be lulls in the regular season and like massive lulls in the regular season. The Dodgers, I think they won their first 8 games to start the year. So since that, they're 5-6. So that's a stretch now. A 10+ game stretch where they've been at best an average team. But there's nothing that is making me say that they're still not set up to, at the very least, make a deep run in the playoffs. Now, I will say if I'm a Dodgers fan, I would be a little bit worried about the Padres because they've looked really, really, really impressive so far. And I think going into the season, the Dodgers were as much of a lock to win their own division as any team had ever been. Like they were just so far and away with the depth that they have offensively and pitching wise, just so far and away the best team that the chances that they would win their division was effectively 100%. But give a lot of credit to this Padres team who started off 14-4. Now it's pretty funny because you look at Fangraphs and the projected percent to win the division. For going into the year, the Dodgers were literally already at 90%, which is ridiculous. The Padres, again, a 14-4 start. They've seen their odds to win the division go from 4% to 8%. So it's still that shows you just how little people believe that anyone else besides the Dodgers win it. But you're right. Right now, they find themselves in third place. Padres and the Giants look really sharp. I mean, I just saw the Giants come into New York and take 2 out of 3 against my Yankees. They look really impressive too. But it's going to take kind of a miracle, I think, for the Dodgers not to be where they should be come playoff time and not be the best team in baseball. I mean, there's going to be stretches like we're seeing now, but all in all, I mean, they are deeper than any other team in baseball in every single category of the roster. Even if half their team got hurt, they'd still be the best team in baseball. So it's a lot. It's a lot to get over the Dodger hump.
Yeah, and I mean, one of the players that the Dodgers brought in was Japanese pitching phenom Roki Sasaki. He's been having a decent season. I'm not going to say he's been bad by any means. 3.29 ERA in just 13 innings pitched. Gave up 11 hits, 5 runs, a home run, 13 walks, 12 strikeouts. So he's been having an okay season. But when you look at a guy on the Padres, Nick Pivetta, I know he's been, a veteran now for a handful of years, but 1.59 ERA in 17 innings pitched is a crazy stat line.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, his numbers look really impressive so far. I mean, that's like that Padre rotation is really, really, really nice. Just saw Michael King, complete game shutout. He is awesome to watch. I mean, that's some punch. Obviously, not to mention Dylan Cease, who is a stud as well. I mean, that's some 1-2-3 if Pivetta keeps it up. And he's been pretty consistent throughout the last couple of years. In 2023, 4.04 ERA, 1.12 WHIP. In 2024, 4.14 ERA, 1.13 WHIP. So you've effectively completely copied the last 2 seasons. I think the Padres would be really happy with another kind of copy and paste that's a rock solid, like 3 or 4 guy in the rotation. And when you have a Michael King and Dylan Cease just rocking up at the top of your rotation, that's going to win you a lot of regular season baseball games. So I'd be feeling pretty good if I was a Padres fan right now. And obviously you have the thump at the top of the lineup still. Tatis is playing like an MVP so far this year. He has been really, really, really impressive. Kind of back to that form that we all know he could be at. He's got a 1. OPS plus, or OPS right now, tied for the league lead homers with 6. So I think there's a lot to look forward to if you're a Padres fan.
Yeah, I know a fellow KCSB sports member, Bella. She's a Padres fan, so she's probably loving this right now. Speaking of loving your teams, as an Angels fan, I've been loving this season so far. We just lost 4-0 to the Rangers, so that puts us second in the AL West, half a game behind them. But I mean, the Angels have been on a tear. I think they're like 9-7 now, but still they've been doing really well in the hitting department, the pitching department, top to bottom, night and day compared to how last season went so far for the Angels. One of the best teams in the AL, one of the best teams record-wise in the MLB. Mike Trout has been doing really well since they put him in that right fielder DH spot. I think he had
Mm-hmm.
3 games in a row where he hit a home run. He's one of the league leaders in home runs. So it's so great to have Mike Trout back, and as a baseball fan, it's so good to see him back healthy, hitting nukes like he has been in years
Yeah.
past.
Absolutely. I mean, he's got a 508 slugging right now. The on base percentage has been down. The hits have been down, but when he's made contact, he is making contact. So it's so nice. You're right. I mean, baseball, it's just as simple as that. Baseball is better when Mike Trout is playing. You really you miss it when he's not there, but his under the hood numbers look really impressive so far. Ex WOBA 400 in the 89th percentile. So those predictive metrics look really impressive. Barrel percent in the 90th percentile. So he's doing it all. And still 82nd percentile in sprint speed. So he's still got a lot of zip on him, which is awesome to see. Could still steal some bags. So really exciting. As someone who's got a little money on both the Angels and the Rangers, I'm feeling really good about
Okay.
my AL West chances right now. I mean, I'm a big fan of both of these teams. I think, with the Angels, it's always, you kind of have to hold your breath a little bit. You
Yeah.
never really know it feels like it's always waiting to all fall apart for them. They've gotten off to some hot starts in recent years, but I think this is a year where the offense might actually be good enough now to kind of propel them a little bit, keep them up. Logan O'Hoppy's been really great behind the plate. Nolan Shanuel, I think, is probably the best story on the Angels right now.
I
He's
agree.
been doing exactly what you'd want him to do. So I think it's a bunch of young guys hitting wise who are just kind of doing enough. And then, of course, Jorge Soler is actually having a fantastic year so far, DHing. So it's just a matter of how long can the pitching hold on. And you have some promising arms back there. So I think it's going to be an exciting year for the Angels. I think there's a very real chance they, at the very least, are a 500 team and not a below 500 team like they've been for years. I think they could definitely be in the running for a wild card.
Yeah, and I mean, you mentioned how Angels fans kind of have to hold their breath. I actually, I want less than a week ago, made a little graphic, and I posted it on my Twitter just as for fun. Um, for anyone watching on YouTube, I'll do my best to put the graphic up so you all can see, but I'll explain it right now for the audio viewers. So we have the Angels seasonal cycle. So you start at the top, you do well in spring training and the beginning of the season. And then you go to players get injured and the team goes on a big losing streak. Then transition to trade deadline where you make win now trades and then you lose the majority of the remaining of the games and miss playoffs. Currently, we're at the start. You're at the start
Yeah.
currently.
I mean, that sounds pretty right. That sounds fairly accurate from a guy on the sidelines looking at the Angels in the last couple of years. Yeah. I mean, it's going to stay like that until they figure out a way to break the cycle somehow. And I don't know what that's going to take. If they couldn't do it with Trout and Ohtani, like, I don't know what that's going to take. It's going to have to come from a lot of different guys, but why not? Why not this year? Is what you gotta hope for.
Yeah. And we talked about my team, but Jake, I want to ask, how have the Yankees been doing? The Bronx Bombers.
Bronx Bombers, indeed, Angel, lead the MLB in home runs. They keep setting records for most home runs hit through X amount of games played so far this year. And I'm still pretty high on my Yankees. I think the the pitching has been putrid so far. Besides Max Fried, who has been awesome. I mean, what an ace he is! It's so awesome to see him in pinstripes. There's genuinely not one starter that you can rely on at all. Marcus Stroman's been, I think, the worst starting pitcher in baseball. He's hurt now, and then Rodon's been just the most frustrating pitcher you will ever watch, Angel. Every single game, he goes out there, he's going to give you 5 incredible innings, efficient, high strikeout numbers, looks like an ace, and then 1 inning where he just blows up and gives up 4 or 5 runs. And you never know which inning it's going to be. Could be the first, could be his last, could be somewhere in the middle. You never know when it's going to come. But there will be a blow-up inning, and it makes his overall numbers just look terrible. And they just don't really have any other pitchers to do it. So that's going to be the story all season. Can they find enough starting pitching? Clark Schmidt comes back today for them, makes his season debut, which they desperately need. But the other side of things is that their offense has been awesome, and their bullpen looks like it could absolutely be the best bullpen in baseball with Devin Williams and Luke Weaver up at the top. But I think the lineup is kind of everything I've been dreaming of as a Yankee fan over the last few years. Last year it was just Judge and Soto and literally no one else. And if it wasn't your two big guys getting it done, you were going to get shut out. And years before that, it was just Judge. And if it wasn't him, we're going to get shut out. It was going to look ugly. But finally, they're balanced. A lot of lefties in there, a lot of righties. Austin Wells has been great from the catching position. Paul Goldschmidt is awesome. He's one of my favorite players, always has been. Jazz at second. Volpe's been good at short. Jason Dominguez had a huge hit last night for the win. And then Ben Rice has genuinely been the best hitter in the American League so far this year. So a lot to look forward to with my Yankees. I think they should still understandably be the favorites in the AL East. Let's see, Fangraphs has them 43% chance to win the division. Next closest is the Red Sox at 19. I think that's pretty accurate. I think I give them, a solid 50-50 shot to win the division. I think they're definitely good enough to. So it's just a matter of, can you get enough starting pitching? But I like where my guys are going for the sweep today against the Royals. So I'll be tuning in.
Right. Well, to transition from professional baseball, let's head back to college and talk about our Gauchos, who have been starting to heat up a little bit. I know we're both going to be on radio today, Gaucho Sports Spot. But why not talk about them a little bit right now? I'm sure we're going to talk about this on radio, but Gauchos currently going into tomorrow's series against Cal Poly are on a 6-game winning streak. They've won 2 straight conference series, in which the last was a sweep against UC Riverside. They've just been, overall, really good. They've finally kind of started to get the ball rolling. Kind of late in the season. They only have a handful of series left. But, better now than later, because especially with the Big West tournament for baseball, want to be in that top 5 seed, and right now they are exactly 5.
Yeah. They have some big series coming up. 2 of the teams that are ahead of them are CSU Fullerton and Cal Poly. So they will play both of them. They only have 4 conference series left, so just 12 games to go. And I remember when we were at the Davis series a couple weekends ago, we were saying, well, it's still pretty early, they're in a rut, but now it's the first half of the season is ending. Like, they got to go. They got to start going now if they want to make the playoffs. And they turned it on. Credit to them. They turned it on. They took care of business against Davis, and they took care of business against what is a last place UC Riverside team, which is exactly what they needed to do. The offense kind of exploded, 13 and 18 runs in those first 2 Riverside games. Then disappointing loss at California Baptist. They blew a lead in the 8th and then lost it with a walk-off in the 9th, which is upsetting. But in the first half of the season, they looked incredible against out-of-conference opponents and then just totally lost it in conference. If the second half is the opposite, I would happily take that, because that's what they need to do. They need to make sure they take care of business in conference. So, you have 12 conference games left, and it's not going to be easy. You get 2 middling teams in UC San Diego and Cal State Bakersfield. You have to win those series. Really, you have to sweep those series if you want to feel good about yourself. And then it's what can they do against Cal Poly and Fullerton? Fullerton, I think, is a team that the Gauchos should be better than. They should be. They're more talented. Again, this is a team in the Gauchos that are still elite on the mound. 3.54 ERA is one of the best in college baseball so far, still. But Cal Poly's been incredible. 14-1 in conference, 26-9 overall. This is a series coming up this weekend where you're at home. Like, how much do you want it? Like, this is going to show me a lot, I think. If they can compete and take 2 out of 3, I think they're absolutely then back to, all right, let's win the Big West. If they get outclassed again against top-tier Big West competition, I'm not going to have a lot of faith.
Yeah, and I mean this next series is going to be huge against Cal Poly.
Yeah.
Not only is it a rivalry series, it's you're going up against one of the best teams in college baseball right now. They're the first in the conference. They are a top 25 hopeful, and they are currently sitting at 17th in RPI across all of Division One college baseball. So they, without a doubt, even if they're not a division or a conference winner in terms of the tournament, they're definitely going to sneak in as a bubble team when the picks are made for who's in the field of 64.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is one of the best teams in college baseball. You said it. I'm really intrigued at how this Gaucho team can try and match up against Cal Poly. Now, Cal Poly, 4.60 ERA. That's a far cry from the Gauchos again. Gauchos 8th still in the country in terms of ERA, but Cal Poly hits. I mean, they slug. They've got an 859 OPS, and they just kind of get it done. A lot of times it's ugly, but they come out on top. They know how to win. So I'm really intrigued. I'm really excited. I think the Gaucho offense is kind of coming together, is clicking at the right time. The Trey McCollum continues to just lead this team offensively. It's up to a 360 batting average now, almost a 1,000 OPS, which is really impressive. And then some of the other guys, Kazuyusko has really stepped up of late. Nate Vargas still doing it. Mendez, Esker. You have a solid crew of hitters now that you can rely on a daily basis. So I like where this team is at, but a lot of my feelings about the Gauchos are going to depend on this Cal Poly series. But I think this is when the top tier starting pitching can really matter, because you know that the Gauchos are going to be able to throw Tyler Bremner, Calvin Prosty, and then Jackson Flora out there for these next 3 games. And they're going to have the advantage. You'd think on the mound, they will have the pitching advantage for each of these next 3 starts, even though Cal Poly is so impressive. So it's just a matter of, can the offense have enough juice to back up those aces?
Yeah, and you mentioned Tyler Bremner. Compared to last year, Tyler Bremner has not been having that great of a season. Just looking at his stats right now, a 4.02 ERA, 3.3 win-loss in 47 innings pitched. He's given up 41 hits, 22 runs, 10 walks, 7 doubles, 5 home runs, and 57 strikeouts. The batting average against him is 234, which is pretty good, but the 4.02 ERA is just not where you want it to be, especially for a highly touted prospect projected to go top 5. I don't want to, seem like a bit of a pessimist here, but I feel like his draft stock is kind of falling.
No, I agree. And it's been a really frustrating year because, again, those underlying numbers, he's got a 109 whip. That's elite. That is elite at the college level. And the strikeout numbers are still really impressive. He's still got that stuff, but it just feels like every single game, all the hits come in bunches. When one guy gets on, he just has these like blow up innings that have really inflated his ERA. He can't stop a rally. And it's really upsetting. I thought, that UC Davis game, 7 innings, just 1 run, 10 Ks. I thought that was going to be a turning point, but gives up 4 runs and 7 hits in 6 innings against UC Riverside. Again, he gets himself 10 Ks over his last 2 starts in 13 innings. He's got 20 strikeouts and 1 walk. So that's incredible, but the runs are still coming, and they come in bunches. He's not giving up 1 hit an inning. He's giving up, an average of 1 hit an inning, but all those hits are coming in the same inning. So I don't know how you solve that. Like, the stuff is still there. It almost feels more mental, and that's worrisome. I mean, moving forward, that is worrisome. And if I am a scout, that is something that worries me, that mental side of things. But the natural talent is so elite that he's still going to get drafted pretty high, I'd imagine. But it definitely hasn't gone up this year. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting to see the Big West right now as a whole because there's a possibility of multiple Big West teams making it to the tournament this year. You have UC Irvine, who is, I believe, 13th in the nation right now in all of Division One college baseball. You have Cal Poly trying to sneak in, and UCSB on the outside looking in. UCSB in Baseball America and D1Baseball.com have them at around the one either a last four in team or a next four out team. So they're really on the bubble. They're walking the line. And in terms of RPI, UCSB is currently 68th. I mentioned Cal Poly 17th. Irvine is 24th, and Hawaii is at 51. So, I mean, if you look at just RPI alone, the teams that have to win or the teams that are projected to win need to win. Like, you need
Yeah.
Irvine to win the conference. As a UCSB student and fan, that's kind of tough to say. But if you want UCSB to get in, you need Irvine to win, unless UCSB can win the conference tournament, because then they are an
Right.
automatic qualifier.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think you need I think since Irvine swept us earlier in the year, and it was an ugly sweep
Yeah.
at Irvine, the better they do, the better it looks on the Gadgets, absolutely. But I think, those RPI rankings, those on the bubble things, I mean, that that those would explode if we can take care of business against Cal Poly this weekend. I think you win a series against a team that's 17th in RPI and firmly in the tourney right now. If the season ends today, that makes you look a lot better going forward. And it also, I've been saying it a lot. I feel like a top 3 seed is so vital for this Big West tournament. If you do want to try and go out and get that automatic qualifier, right now you're tied with Hawaii, and then you're just a game and a half below CSU Fullerton. So if you take care of business against Fullerton in that series a couple of weeks from now, there's absolutely a path to a top 3 seed. I don't think it's basically impossible to catch up to Cal Poly and UC Irvine now, but definitely can jump Hawaii and Fullerton. So it's just a matter of how much the Gauchos want it. I think, besides Bremner, your other 2 pitchers in Calvin Prosky and Jackson Flora are finding it at the right time. I mean, Prosky's been great this entire year. He's been unreal. And then Jackson Flora, I mean, his last 3 games, 6 innings, 1 run, 7 innings, no runs, 7 innings, 1 run. He's been so good. So those are the guys that can lead you to make a run for the tournament. I think it'd be a really disappointing year if they can't even make it to the NCAA tournament, but I've still got hope for this team.
Yeah, and I mean, looking at the last few weeks of the season, the last month, if you can get even just one game against Cal Poly and win the series against Fullerton, I think you're in really good standing. You don't even have to win the series against Cal Poly as long as you take a game from them and win the series against Fullerton. Doesn't have to be a sweep, but as long as you get two, I think you're in really good shape going into the tournament.
Yeah, no, I agree with you there. And it's not a super easy path for Fullerton either. They've got UC Irvine coming up. They still have Irvine, and they play Hawaii. Their last 6 games are against Hawaii and then at Irvine. So that's great for the Gauchos to see the guys above them fighting. So I like that, a little bit of schedule watching.
Well, that is all we have for today's episode of Beyond the Sideline. Jake, thank you once again for coming on and joining me as my co-host. As mentioned at the start of the episode, we are now on Apple Podcast. For the YouTube listeners, I will put that in the link in the description so you can choose which audio platform you would like to listen on, whether it be Spotify or Apple if you prefer audio only. And as this episode airs Friday at 2 p.m. Pacific, 5 p.m. Eastern, we will be in the middle of the Cal Poly UCSB series. So the next episode, we will definitely be covering how that series went down, along with the start of the NBA playoffs, the continued MLB season, and any other news that is coming out of the sports world. Maybe we talk a little bit about Stanley Cup playoffs as well, as that is going to be going on as well. Jake, you have any final thoughts?
It's an exciting time for sports. I mean, this is one of the best times of the year. So much going on. So really exciting and great time to talk sports. Love doing it. Love it. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you once again, and thank you all for listening to yet another episode of Beyond the Sideline. We hope to see you in the next one.